Welcome to my short-term rental operating system Notion template. This is a template that I used. I started using Notion as a knowledge base and an operating system on Notion when I had 12 properties. That was back in 2020. And then I used Notion in this whole backend system to essentially grow my vacation rental management company to over 50 units. And so this really helped me keep organized and everything together, especially as I grew my team of VAs. So our first use case for Notion was our properties database. And so this is where you'd store all of your information. We'd have arrival guides and digital house guides, any notes. Down here we have purchases we'll get into, and furniture, amenities, files, and docs, who's on the team as far as Nashville. And then all of these open up into all of new information. And so this all is involved in our properties database. And for example, this would then take us to our contacts database that talks about Michael, the owner of Dream House. These are obviously all just fake names. And so this essentially captured nearly all of the information that we needed as in our company as we grew it to 50 plus units. And so a lot of these things, maybe if you only have 10 or 15 or 25 units, maybe you don't need all of this stuff. You can kind of work into it. But the high value of the Workspace is the interconnectedness between the databases. So again, this is another, takes you to our contacts database. It tells you it's the plumber, they're a contractor, it tells you it's the host, and it tells you the properties they're associated with and the cities that they're in. And so, it tells you who the cleaner is, and, if there's pest control or who does the plumbing, waste management information, things like that. And so overall, what you can do when you add a new property is, in a lot of the spaces throughout the Workspace, or a lot of pages throughout the Workspaces, there's these templates. And so when you click on these templates, it pre-populates this information for you and sort of gives you prompts on what you should be putting in those cells, essentially. And so all of this, again, is pre-populated. So like, for example, your digital house guide, it has all of the formats of the digital house guide, and then it just has areas for you to plug in your own information. And then obviously you can add and edit this in any which way that that makes sense for you. So that's an overview of the properties database. And again, these are all different databases that we use in the business, from properties to different markets that we were in, to actual jurisdictions who had ruling over the properties, what discounts for the properties, and what surcharges do we charge, like cleaning fees and things like that. What are our different taxes? If you're in several different jurisdictions, then you'll have different taxes likely. Different policies, random policies like, do you allow cats, or do you allow 4 dogs or 3 dogs, different things like that your PMS and platforms don't capture. Then it breaks into the roles, responsibilities, areas, contacts of the business. So it kind of showed you this again, contacts of the business. You have a selection here, shows you the field team or the internal team or the owners. And these are all just different databases. Again, so if you go in and click on a new cleaner or a new field team member, you'll have these templates that now has the cleaner, a new housekeeper, and now it has a service agreement that you can go in and, again, you can edit this to how you see fits in your business, and then use the service agreement. And besides the service agreement, it sort of has like a step-by-step. Our VAs use this on hiring. Okay, we had the onboarding call, we had the service agreement, we've reviewed the training and documentation, and it would just allow us to kind of track progress of onboarding this new housekeeper, whoever it was. So besides the contacts, this is more for your internal remote team. As you grow, multiple people are going to have multiple roles, and maybe you'll call things differently. And maybe roles will be merged, but essentially these are all of the various roles that were in our business. And so how this all can kind of break down is your role, specific role is associated with the general overall function of the business, and it can give you the contact that is filling that role. It can tell you the recurring tasks that need to be completed in that role. Also tell you the training and documentation that is associated with that role, any tools and resources that would be needed for that role. And so this really starts to help you break down specifically what is happening and who is doing what day to day. And so then bottom, there's these various other databases. Training and documentation is a great, wonderful database for us. Has pre-populated over 200 training articles that are all relevant in the business. So here is a list of just top articles, right? Like natural disaster response and management, and what the lost and found policy is. Here's the article information, exactly what happens, and just a lot of other things, right? How to hire and onboard a new host, how to be successful in our company, right? Here's what winning and losing is, and here's our values, spotting holes in the system, or onboarding a new property. This is a huge one for everyone, and this is a very comprehensive, in-depth training article that goes into more training articles about the exact steps that we use for onboarding a property, right? So on the site visit and kickoff call, those are the things we need to complete. When we onboard the owners into our system, here's the things that we need to complete. And it just really goes into high-level detail about the whole system of what we use to onboard a new property. And again, it just gives you a structure and foundation to be able to do this or implement it in your own business. So this is the training articles. If I took away these two tags, then it would show all of the right. Here's a one of managing extortion, of what happens when a guest says, hey, I'm going to give you a bad review unless you give me money back, or something like that. So here's all the various articles that we have. If you have owner res, this is a huge one. We've got about 30 articles here specific to owner res, and onboarding a new property and everything in owner res. So that's training and documentation. There's our tools database. What are the different tools in the business? This is kind of like your favorites or your bookmarks page or folder in your browser. It just allows everyone to see it, and then also allows your whole team to see it, and then also allows your credentials to easily be shared. File and link directory, all the different files. We have a training and feedback. This is connected to our training articles, so it gives you a place to store feedback that you can then review with your team members, but then it also gets stored for future use when someone is, for example, reviewing guest evictions. You can go and see, okay, here's real example of guest evictions. Let's say this was a good example of this training article that now if someone is reviewing the training article, it's their first time, they can say, okay, here's a way that we should handle it, or here's a way that we shouldn't handle it, good, bad, whatever that is. So that's a training and feedback. Got a permits and certificates. This is housing all your permits and certificates, STR certificates. Gives you notifications and properties that are associated with it. Also stores that information here. Then again, you have training and documentation about how you fill out the permits and certificates. We talked about the credentials database that houses all the passwords. Accounts database, this is how it can house all your financial credit card information. We have a purchases database. This houses all your receipts. Again, it gives you the property and gives you vendors that are stored in the tools and resources business. And this is set up with, or you have to set up the automation, but the functionality allows automation to go to QuickBooks. So now you have pre-organized and pre-sorted your transactions for the month. So lots of other small things, safety injury log. We found that this was important after our first lawsuit that we were involved in. We have insurance documents. We have, here's the different public pages, time off requests, staff for schedules, listings database. So also then finally company culture. We have a company culture database that allows you to easily input what your company culture is, and then it also gives a beautiful example of my company and how I went into great detail and really related it to everyone on the team. So if you have any questions, of course, reach out. Happy to answer.